You know, there's this thing with to-do lists. Every to-do list I've ever seen is one-dimensional. That means you have a sheet of paper and you write your to-dos from the top to the bottom, right? That's one dimension, up and down. You have no left and right or something like that. And now recently there are some apps who add a little more value to that. So that's like a hierarchy. You can, for example, click here and then you have another window open and then you have sub tasks. You know what I mean? There are a lot of apps now, to-do apps, who seem to make it easier. But that doesn't really solve the problem, because if you have a task and then a subtask and then again a subtask, then you have like a tree. What you can never do is, for example, show that this task here and this task is related. In my opinion, the to-dos are not usually one-dimensional like the usual to-do list, but they are also not only like a tree, like the recent apps like Wunderlist or Todoist, or I don't know, all these apps have. I think to-dos are more like this. You have a to-do here, you have a to-do here, and then they are all related, like a network. And in my opinion, there's no app which is able to draw that network. And this is why I just don't use an app. I just do it on a sheet of paper. And for several other reasons, anyway, I like sheets of paper more than apps, because with apps you usually get lost really fast. You have the new app and you write all your to-do lists and you feel super good and you feel really well and super productive, and then after 2 days it's overwhelming and you don't use your app anymore. So at least that's my experience, and I've never met somebody who is really good with to-do apps and really productive. So in all the years in the last, I don't know when I really started with that to-do list stuff, let's say around 15 years. In all the 15 years, I never saw somebody who has an app really under control with really value. And that's why I still use paper. Imagine this is your sheet of paper, and I always lay the paper like this. So this is my sheet of paper, and I have this sheet of paper on my desk. What I do is, first thing is, for every to-do, I make a little square. Then I write down the to-do, for example, call Mr. XY. Then the next square, write email. And there's another square, let's say more complicated, get data, and there's something super complicated with it, which is called develop marketing concept. Okay. So it starts like a usual to-do list, like we all have, like a usual two-dimensional to-do list. But my to-do list has something magical, and this is two things. First thing is this little square here. This is super important for me because I can draw notes in a meeting, and then I know this square is always a to-do. That means I can write different notes and everything what I am told, and then I know when there's a square, this is a to-do. It's really easy for me to pass these messages, so I can see there's a to-do. So the first magical thing is I like paint. It feels a little bit like painting. When I finish a to-do, I sit there for a couple of seconds and do like what you're just seeing. I just like to fill and to paint this square. And it sounds maybe a little ridiculous, but for me, that's a feeling like I did something. And if you have a big to-do list and after a couple of days you have all these filled squares, you feel really productive and you feel really well. Some other people like to cross stuff out, but I personally think that doesn't look so well. I personally like it more when I have something to really to fill. That was the first trick, but the really magic lies in the second trick, and that is the second dimension. The second dimension means one dimension is only up and down, right? So now I'm going from here to here, and when the list is full, I take another sheet or something else. But usually, and that's the big problem of all these apps, after 5 or 6 to-dos, you learn that these to-dos are related. That means when I write email to Mr. Z, and then somebody is telling me about ask Mr. Z about another project, let's say project B, whatever, that doesn't make sense, I know, but I want to say these are 2 different to-dos, and because I'm on a sheet of paper and not in a stupid app, I can easily draw arrows between these to-dos. And for me, that's super cool. And I have lots of pens. I have colored pens, and then I can also make like highlight here. This is a color, and this is a second color. So I can make it really, really bold and explain myself. These to-dos are related. What I can also do is I now clear the whole list because I need a little more space. For example, here I have a to-do and some other to-do, and then somebody explaining me, or I have new ideas, and then I can directly here in this sheet of paper with these arrows. I always work a lot with these arrows. I can write more like, okay, a little more notes and here and here. And what I always do is, if this to-do requires another to-do, for example, I have to call that other guy first before I can do it, I draw the arrow in the opposite direction, and then I have here a second to-do. And then I can say, call Mr. first, for example, and ask about blah, blah, blah. And this is now, you see here, I don't have so much space here, but on a real bigger sheet of paper, you have a lot of stuff to draw your notes, and that's really, really nice. And my to-do list sheets, they look completely like networks. So I have here relations, then I have here again something, and then maybe I have some important notes, then I make a little other square here, then I write here notes, and then I'm like, yes, okay, this is related to that, and then I write here something. And for me, it's a lot of fun to draw these things, because for me it's a little bit like, it's not so boring, and it feels a bit like art. Okay, art is maybe too much, but if you have all these sheets of paper on your desk, it's really, you draw really relations between things that really make sense, and you could never do that in an app. And what I do is, then when I have such a paper, maybe that paper is good enough for a week, or if it's for an important project, for a couple of weeks. But over the time, I try to solve all these to-dos and solve them. Only if I know the to-do is not possible, it's really, I don't have to do it anymore, then just for the sake, I will cross it out to show myself this to-do was not done. I hope you understand, or you get what I'm meaning. because we all think in these networks and in these relations. We don't think like A, B, C, D, E. And I've tried so many to-do list apps, and it's always the same problem. You have a one dimension, or sometimes you have a tree, so you have a hierarchy, but the leaves of this tree are also connected. And with most apps, you just cannot do that. So you really need something to draw. I would really love you to try it and give it a chance. And maybe you will do like me, and then you will never use a to-do list app again. You have big piles of paper with many to-dos, and you're super happy and super productive like me.